What's up, everyone? My name is Ethan. Welcome to Splash City. If you're new, don't forget to subscribe. And before we get into it today, I want to address the new setup. This is my desk space right here, right now. We're moving over to, not using the green screen, doing some live content right at you, face front to the camera, and you can kind of see my room in the background and some images I've thrown up on these monitors. So this is not going to be, an every video thing. I'm going to play it by ear, but for some of these more, just off-the-cuff kind of reaction ones, I wanted to try to do this. And then for, some of the more in-depth, like, breakdowns and stuff, when I need to, like, throw a lot more graphics up on the screen, we'll probably go back and use the green screen for those. So this is what we're doing for now. We are going to be using this green screen for just some of the more off-the-cuff reaction videos. So if you have not subscribed already and you've been around the channel for a while, please consider doing so. That would help me out a lot. And with all of that out of the way, let's talk a little basketball for today. So we had the big Russell Westbrook trade to the Los Angeles Lakers a couple of days ago, about a week ago now. And I've done, some reactions to that. I've mentioned it, of course, in some of the videos I've done over the past week, and I made a TikTok about it and all that stuff. But I wanted to give some more in-depth analysis on what the Lakers have been doing this offseason and what their plans have been so far, because it's been definitely a very interesting offseason for the LA Lakers, not only with the Russell Westbrook trade, but with all these other veterans and even some younger guys that they're bringing in to fill out their roster, because they, they pretty much had nobody left over after they made that Russ trade. Obviously, you send out KCP, Kyle Kuzma, Montrezl Harrell, along with draft assets and stuff like that. You bring back Russell Westbrook, right? Obviously, he's a huge piece. But once you bring him back, you only have him, LeBron James, Anthony Davis on the roster, along with Marc Gasol. And then they did have Alfonso McKinney, but he was cut because he was non-guaranteed, and they didn't want to keep his contract around. So they get rid of Alfonso McKinney. So, after the post-Russ trade, it's only 4 players that are coming back from last season, and they have to go out there in free agency and fill out the roster with a bunch of minimum contracts. They bring back Talen Horton-Tucker, which is nice. He was a restricted free agent. They bring him back, I believe, a 3-year deal for Talen Horton-Tucker to come back. But other than that, they really didn't re-sign anybody from last year's team. Markieff Morris is gone. Alex Caruso is gone. Obviously, all the guys that they had traded away are gone. So this is going to be a very different Lakers squad. They brought back a lot of guys who had played for the team in the past, not necessarily last year, but guys who had previously been Lakers, specifically Trevor Ariza, Kent Bazemore, Dwight Howard. You also signed Carmelo Anthony. You sign a younger guy like Malik Monk, of course. I think he can help out quite a bit. Kendrick Nunn gets the mid-level exception with the Lakers. So you're kind of rebuilding this roster on the fly, and all of that is due to the big gamble that they made for Russell Westbrook. And let's talk about that for a second, because everybody's talking about the spacing and about how this is going to work in a three-point shooting environment, right? Because as we know, Russell Westbrook is, this is just simply a fact, statistically the worst high-volume three-point shooter in the history of the NBA. He takes a lot of threes, and he doesn't make very many. That's just how it is. His confidence, of course, is never going to waver. He's always going to think that he's going to make them, but he doesn't at a very high rate, right? So you don't have Russ making threes. LeBron James is, an average three-point shooter. He's not bad, not amazing. And Anthony Davis, is pretty good for a big guy, but again, not an amazing three-point shooter. So those three, your big three, are not necessarily going to be floor spacers for you. So who do you have? Well, Kendrick Nunn's an all-right three-point shooter. Kent Bazemore, Trevor Ariza, all good three-point shooters, average to good. And then you also, so you sign Wayne Ellington. He is a three-point sniper. That's kind of how he's able to extend his career, why he's been around so long, right? He's been able to hit threes for a long time for a lot of different teams. So Wayne Ellington, can potentially be that designated floor spacing guy. Malik Monk, when he's hot, can really hit shots. Like I said, Kendrick Nunn as well, throw him in that category. So they did sign, a pretty decent amount of floor spacing in free agency, but obviously it's still going to be somewhat of a talking point for them throughout the regular season, just making sure that they are able to hit enough threes to keep up with the rest of the league, because that's where the NBA is at right now, and obviously 3 is more than 2. So if you're not hitting threes, you're going to have to keep up some other way, whether that's at the free throw line or just being unstoppable in the paint. And certainly the Lakers should be able to figure out ways to score, but that's the one thing that is going to be a concern. The other thing, of course, with Russell Westbrook is this going to be the first time in his career where he does not think that he's the best player on a team? Because he's played with a lot of good players in his past. Obviously, Bradley Beal for the past year, and then previous to that, of course, you had Paul George in OKC. Obviously, James Harden in Houston, and then prior to that, they had James Harden and Kevin Durant when he was in OKC. So lots of really good players have played with Russell Westbrook. You can make an argument, who was the better player on any of those Russ teams, but I think, it's pretty foolish to say he was better than KD on those teams, but that's kind of besides my point. My point is that Russell Westbrook always thinks that he's the best player on the court, right? Well, he's playing with LeBron James now, and Anthony Davis, who I don't think this is controversial to say, are both better than Russell Westbrook. So at this point in his career, is he ready to, accept being the third option on the Lakers if it means, contending for a title, potentially sacrificing statistics in order to do so? But is he ready to, potentially take a backseat to both of those guys when the time comes? Obviously, everybody has to take a backseat to LeBron James. He's a lot of people regard him as the best player in the league, rightfully so. And he takes control of his own teams. And so, Russell Westbrook and LeBron James there together could potentially create an issue if Russ is not willing to, take that back seat in order to, fully maximize what this team can do. So I think that's something to watch out for. Not necessarily going to be a problem, but everything that we've seen from Russell Westbrook does indicate that it's probably unlikely that he's going to be willing to take that step back. But maybe that changes now. Going to his preferred market, getting up there in age. He's still a really good basketball player, but his career is sort of, taking a different trajectory now, and maybe he is willing to sacrifice a little bit. So I guess we'll see on that front. Other than that, obviously some of these veterans, I think they can all fill really great roles for this team. Carmelo Anthony, I think is, I expected that one to go down at the start of free agency, honestly. That one just made perfect sense to me. At least for the past couple of months, to be honest with you, everybody was kind of pointing Carmelo Anthony in the direction of the Lakers. We'd heard a lot of rumors about it, and given the fact that the Blazers are kind of going through a little bit of turmoil right now, it makes sense that he would probably want to leave them and go somewhere else. So getting that minimum deal with the Lakers, I think, makes a ton of sense for Carmelo, and I think he can really be a valuable piece for this team. People are calling it a big four. I mean, I know ESPN and Bleacher Report and stuff are always going to hype up those signings, but Carmelo does not make it a big four. Obviously, at this point in his career, he's a veteran minimum player, so he's not, taking the Lakers from, a borderline playoff team to a super team, right? That's not the difference that he's making. He can still help you, but he's not going to be, hugely impactful to your team. And people are already calling this, one of the best teams of all time. And, this team, if they don't win the title, something's wrong. And, they have to go all out and win the NBA Finals this year. I don't think that's true. I think the Lakers are a team that are really good. And if they stay healthy, they're going to be really good. But, you can definitely have some injury concerns with this roster as well, right? LeBron James getting up there in age. He's, going to be 38 next season, 37, 38. And he's, been a little bit injury prone over the past 2 to 3 seasons just because, like I said, he is getting older and he's been mostly, injury free throughout his career. But once you get to, past 35, things start to really be risky in terms of injury stuff. And LeBron's put a lot of miles on his body. So I'm not anticipating him to be fully healthy next season. If he is healthy for the playoffs, then, obviously they're going to be great. Anthony Davis himself has an injury history. He is a little younger, but, he's not proven to be the healthiest guy in the NBA. So a little bit of question there on Anthony Davis. And then Russell Westbrook, he's mostly been, pretty good in terms of injury stuff, but he was hurt last year and the year before that. So, his track record is slowly getting a little bit more banged up as he ages as well. That's what happens. He's going to be, 33, 34 next year. So he's getting up there also. So their trio, guys typically, you would expect them to be healthy, but you never really know. And if they are, they're going to be a really good basketball team. The Brooklyn Nets are obviously going to be the two favorites in each conference. There's plenty of good basketball teams in the league, obviously. The Bucks are, of course, coming off an NBA title. The 76ers are still going to be good over in the Western Conference. The Suns are going to be back, I'm sure. The Clippers, assuming that Kawhi is healthy for the playoffs. Golden State Warriors, Denver Nuggets, Utah Jazz. Lots of really good teams out west. So I would expect the Lakers to be the title favorite. Maybe not the title favorite behind Brooklyn, but at least top 2, top 3, and they're going to be really good next year, and I fully expect that they'll be able to compete even after filling out this roster with a bunch of minimum players. So I think that's about all I have on Russell Westbrook to the Lakers. Just sort of a reaction for you guys. I know it's kind of a week late, but still wanted to kind of talk about that one really quickly and give my thoughts on that with the new setup. So let me know if you guys like this, or do you prefer this way? Do you prefer the green screen? I'd like to hear your thoughts, and I guess I'll take that into consideration as I consider what to use when, depending on what kind of videos I'm making. And this is just a test, things might change for this, but I'm just going to see how this works. So with all that out of the way, like I said at the top of the video, if you're new, don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, ring the bell, leave a comment letting me know what you guys think about the Lakers and their offseason moves and Russell Westbrook and all this stuff. It's kind of crazy. I mean, it still has not fully hit me that Russell Westbrook is on the Lakers, but that'll click in over the next couple of months. But yeah, with all that said, I'll see you guys in the next one.